We're joined by Bill Scher from Campaign for America's Future and LiberalOasis.com, as well as Matt Lewis, who's a senior contributor for the Daily Caller, also editor of a new book titled The Quotable Rogue, The Ideals of Sarah Palin in Her Own Words. Want to talk about the killing of Osama Bin Laden, or Obama Bin Laden if you're a Fox 40 audience member. Bill, let me go first to you. What's the real meaning of this in the context of the war on terror? Are we leaving Afghanistan? What is going on? What will happen? What will change as a result of this?
Well, I don't know if we can say with certainty if it expedites the exit from Afghanistan or not. To what extent does Al-Qaeda persist even without Osama bin Laden as its titular leader? The Taliban is somewhat separate from Al-Qaeda. They will still probably dig in their heels. One hopes this would lead to a momentum shift and make it easier for the Afghanistan government to handle its own security situation. But I don't think anyone wants to make knee-jerk predictions that this would be a glide path on the way out just because of this one momentous event.
Matt, what do you think? And also, what's your sense of, I've seen from the conservative side, some conservatives say, hey, you know what, I don't agree with Obama on much, but he did get this done, whereas others are angry or resentful that George W. Bush wasn't mentioned by Barack Obama in his speech, so on. What are you seeing?
Well, I think that some people are never going to give Obama credit no matter what he does, and I think this was a great move. I mean, he acted unilaterally. He got the job done. It's about putting points on the scoreboard. I think he deserves credit for it. But some people are never going to give him credit. So, I think that's where we're at. I think that, to be honest, brokers, we have to call them like we see them. And by all accounts, President Obama and the Navy SEALs and everybody else did a great job in making this happen. And I think at the end of the day, it makes Barack Obama look good. And I think it actually might be good for George W. Bush's legacy, too.
The George W. Bush legacy is something that I've been reading a little bit about kind of on the blogosphere in the last few hours since this happened. The other kind of question here that has come up in terms of the action that was taken, actually Vijay Prashad posted on my Facebook wall that this was actually an illegal assassination that took place. Are you hearing anything on that, Bill? Is that going to go by the wayside? Is that even going to be explored?
Vijay's a friend. I have great respect for him. I don't think that's going to be a dominant argument in the discourse. I don't think much of the left is going to embrace that notion. I don't think the international community is going to raise much of an issue with that. I think most folks would see this as a person who launched a direct attack on the United States, was on our most wanted list. We had all legal justification to pursue him, and to the extent that he died in a firefight, whether or not, I know there's one anonymous person quoted saying it was a kill mission, not a capture mission. I don't know if there was that's technically true, if that was actually the basis of Obama's order or not. But be that as it may, I don't think anyone's going to be too particular about that sort of argument.
What do you think, Matt?
I think Bill's right. I mean, they're going to be fringe elements. We just saw some fringe elements on the right during this whole truther issue, and now there are going to be some people on the left who make these arguments that it was an unlawful assassination, and then there are people like Cindy Sheehan who apparently are deathers who don't believe that that he's dead, something like that. It still sort of.
Well, listen, Matt, I mean, I haven't seen the short or long form of the death certificate. There's a lot of I have to take Obama at his word on this,
Right.
What effect do you think this will have on the Republican stories that will be told in terms of the nomination now and going into the presidential election? We've seen several stories that we hear about liberals now kind of debunked in a sense, that Obama would not use the military, he would hesitate, that he would not keep the U.S. safe, he won't get bin Laden, so on and so forth. What's going to happen with that traditional kind of meme that we've seen about Democrats going into 2012?
I think it would be a mistake to overplay this, to say that this changes everything, because these narratives are developed over generations, really. And so they're hard to overcome, but it does become more difficult for conservatives and Republicans to accuse him of being Jimmy Carter. Their policies may or may not be similar, but Jimmy Carter failed to do what he needed to do in terms of foreign policy, and which was to get the hostages back. And Barack Obama has succeeded in getting this terrorist, the man behind 9/11. So, look, I think that I don't know if it's a game changer. A lot can happen between now and the election, but I think it gets a little bit harder, certainly, to make the case that he's this, kind of impotent, weak-kneed, typical Democrat.
You hesitated there. Bill, what do you think?
Well, I agree with Matt that these types of narratives and stereotypes are formed over decades and are often hard to dislodge, but I do think they can be dislodged with the help of dramatic events. And this is a pretty dramatic event. So you've had an attempt on the right to put this narrative on Obama specifically, that he's on an apology tour and he's bowing to foreign leaders and he doesn't believe in American exceptionalism. He doesn't think America is a great country. And I never thought those narratives were really spreading beyond conservative circles, but there was a risk that they could make the jump into the broader electorate if there were some notable foreign policy failures. We haven't seen dramatic foreign policy failures. Some things are may be in limbo, but nothing that's actually been bad. And this is obviously a particularly dramatic victory. So that's what makes it much harder for that narrative to stick. It creates the potential to subvert this narrative once and for all, that to be a liberal or a progressive or a Democrat means you are in over your head in national security. Does that mean that Obama is a lock in 2012? I would not say that. There are plenty of examples where foreign policy victories did not translate into re-election victories, often because of economic issues, and that's the case with Jimmy Carter, with Winston Churchill, and with George Bush Sr. Having a foreign policy victory can often become ephemeral in the eyes of the public when they're struggling economically. So Obama doesn't have a lock, but it certainly, I think, is going to take away this one point of attack that conservatives are trying to pursue.
Just last few seconds we have here, Matt. What does this do? I mean, it really does, I think, in my mind, and I think in the mind of many, really, not that I considered Donald Trump a serious presidential candidate anyway, but in addition to the jokes about tough decisions on Celebrity Apprentice at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, doesn't this really put some distance between Barack Obama and all of these other potential candidates on the right who, because of the birth certificate thing, were really getting themselves into the limelight as legitimate contenders in many cases?
Well, at least for the short term, I think what this does is really refocus the debate. I mean, the stuff that let's use Trump as the prime example. I mean, the stuff that Trump was doing, aside from being, I think, a complete sideshow and bogus, was also very superficial. And it was, look, as a blogger, it's fun to write about Donald Trump, and I know the media loved, having videos of him and, debating that whole issue, but it's really not that important. I mean, there's a lot of substantive stuff, whether it's the budget, which is a real issue, entitled getting Bin Laden. And so I think that Obama here really has the last laugh and has made them not only look crazy, but also just look kind of small.
I agree. I couldn't say it better myself, coming from a liberal to a conservative. We've been speaking with Bill Scher, Campaign for America's Future, liberaloasis.com, and also Matt Lewis, senior contributor for the Daily Caller. Thanks, guys, for joining us, especially on short notice.
Thank you.
Great to talk to you.
Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.